Everyone. We have a packed agenda today with lots of great information. The thing I want to start out with today is sharing with you the list of Cohort 2 schools, which I know some of you have seen and others have not. And as I say this, we had another school join us today that is not on the list. So
I
that
have
is one
an
thing.
updated copy.
Oh, you
if you want
do?
me to share it? Yep, I already updated it. So
Perfect. Jen's
I
on
will go
top of it.
share.
We do have schools that are still expressing interest, and we have not put out a timeline of when the last day that they could potentially withdraw. But for right now, as of today, this is our list of Cohort 2 schools. And as you can see, it's very exciting. We have more, obviously, more schools joining than we have in Cohort 1. And we also have more of our CDS sites engaging in the cohort work, which is exciting. So we will share a copy of this with notes that go out from this meeting. Probably stop sharing now, Jen. And I will turn it over to Michelle Belanger from the Early Learning team. She has an announcement to share with our team today.
Thanks, Sandy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Michelle Belanger, and I am the pre-K partnership specialist on the early learning team at the DOE. And so some of you may have received an email from me late last week about a grant opportunity that we have identified some SAUs in Cohort 1 as well as Cohort 2 to help support the FAPE transition by offering some startup funding and grant opportunity for expanding public pre-K with 4-year-olds with a community partner. So starting to build that relationship and supporting the relationship with your community-based providers. And so we do have an informational session that is actually next Wednesday. The registration was in the email that I had sent out to everyone. I know quite a few have registered so far, and so that session will be the 19th. I think it is 1:30 to 2:30, maybe. Can't remember. Whatever's in the email. Don't trust what I say right now. Whatever's in the email is correct. I see Renee shaking her head. 1:30 to 2:30. And then so we'll have that information session and talk about everything about that and next steps and moving forward. So hope to see a lot of you there. Again, the registration was in the email that was mailed out. So and yeah. And do you want to add anything, Leanne?
Just to clarify, I think the session is 1 to 2.
1 to 2.
1 to 2 next Wednesday afternoon.
And there is a question in the chat about finding out information about this grant.
Yeah, so Kate, we had identified SAUs that were not serving public pre-K universal in their district, as well as had eligible community partners. So if you did not receive the email, I can go back and double check. It might be that either you didn't have any community partners that that would qualify for a partnership for the grant, or you might be serving universal. I can definitely go back and check.
Yeah, if you could check, that'd be great. We are definitely not universal. And I think we have community partners. Well, I don't know what the qualifications are, but it would be great if you could check. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Kate, can you just remind us what school system you're from?
RSU 13.
Okay. Thank you.
So it sounds like it's invitation only to this presentation based on the criteria of the grant. You
Yes.
crosswalk that with school districts in cohort 1 and cohort 2. So if school districts did not get a link, then they didn't meet that. So there is more questions in the chat. Beth was asking if you did not consider districts who have limited pre-K. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about the criteria of the grant, of the pilot.
Right. So it's really designed to support expansion of public pre-K, and that's like the first layer. And then we wanted to offer the opportunity to cohort 1 and 2 schools, both to help support that transition, expanding public pre-K in your catchment area, and also helping to build partnerships with licensed childcare providers in your community. So in order to be invited, to the best of our ability, which is great that people might be saying, I think we might not be serving universally because we don't have a way of knowing with absolute certainty whether that's the case. What we try to do is look at how many children are you serving in pre-K against how many children you typically enroll in your kindergarten program, so that we have a pretty good sense of you're serving the vast majority of your population. So if you don't believe that that's the case, like if you didn't get a notification, we're happy to go back and take a look at that and include you. The other criteria was that you needed to have a licensed childcare provider within your catchment area that was at least at a star 3 on the quality rating system. So if you didn't have that, you might not be serving universally, but you might not have a provider. And so that might have eliminated you from the opportunity. So we had to meet both of those factors to get an invitation. The other thing to know is Michelle sent the invitations to the superintendent and the special education director. So hopefully that's been passed along to others who may or may not be serving in those positions, but might be here in the meeting today. So always good to check with them as well. But we'll definitely double check if anyone is concerned that they should have received an invitation to learn more about the opportunity.
Can I just ask one more question too? Because I'm going to check with our superintendent and special ed director. Who would the email have come from? From one of you guys?
Yep, from Michelle Belanger.
Where did it come from me? Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
There's another question in the chat. Has the state created any incentives for pre-Ks to get to a higher certification? So are you talking about public pre-K or community pre-K? I think that was Beth again.
Beth, can you elaborate just a little so we understand your question?
Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten the invitation. It would have gone to either Tim or Chris in our district. So maybe we did get it. But with regards to partners in our community, I represent both Kittery and York. And as far as level 3, has the state done any work with the partners in our community to achieve a higher, like the 3 stars? Just wondering about that.
Yeah, there's a lot actually of support available to providers to move up on the quality rating system. In fact, right now through the preschool development grant, there are funds available through Maine Roads to Quality for targeting the different aspects of their program that might be holding them back from moving up. So I would suggest that if that's a need, that they definitely reach out to Maine Roads to Quality and look into what's available to be able to do that.
Any other questions for Leanne or Michelle? No? Okay, we will move into our next agenda item, which I am sure many of you are going to be excited to learn more about how to purchase or be compensated for a van, which has been a question that has come up from a few SAUs in cohort 1. So we have developed a protocol and a pre-approval application, which I am going to share my screen. Can everybody see my screen now? Yep. Okay. So it is a fairly simple process. If your school district has a need for transporting this population of children, 3 to 5 years old in early childhood special education, or for itinerant staff to use, the SAU will be required to review your current resources in the district or outside of the district, and you will be asked to complete a pre-approval process. Then a team at the DOE will review the application and approve and request more information, or they would deny that and provide you with an explanation. If your school district has been approved for purchasing or leasing a van to serve children in this age group, you will follow the normal process for purchasing a van. And if you have questions about that, you can contact Cheryl Brackett at Maine DOE, and we will add her email to this before we send it out. And then step 4, all allowable expenses can be billed to your cost center 2213. That includes the payment, mileage, driver, car seats, or having a aid or monitor. And then there is a link regarding for more information regarding passenger van use, and we have shared that here. So next I'm going to share the pre-approval application. Once again, it's fairly simple. You will get this and it is an editable form. So you're going to complete the date that you submitted it, your school district, superintendent, and then if there's a different contact person that is in charge of this and their contact information. You will need to provide a brief explanation of the reasons that the children in this age group cannot ride the school bus. You will be required to provide a brief explanation to the reason that the school's current transportation fleet cannot be used. And then a brief explanation to the reasons that the SAU cannot utilize a community transportation system. If the purchase or lease is for staff use only, a cost benefit review against the use of their own vehicle and billing mileage to 2213 cost center. And then a review and explanation regarding the longevity of the need. And then any other information that may support us with this pre-approval process. Once you complete this form, you will email it to Jennifer Hopkins, and the team will review that in a timely manner and get back to you as soon as possible. So we will be sending that out probably tomorrow or right after this meeting. Are there any questions regarding this process? If you do have any questions as you're filling it out, please feel free to reach out to Jennifer or myself, and we will attempt to answer them. And if we need to, we will bring in our team to help support answering those questions. Okay, well, that was pretty easy. I really thought there would be a lot of questions about that. The The next item on the agenda is just a check-in regarding ESY. The next part of the agenda is going to talk about summer referrals and child find activities. And we're also going to talk about our CDS rate schedule for the support and service hubs. But we really want to know if you need support providing ESY services and or just need support thinking about how to structure that for this age group. If you do need support, please reach out to Jen or myself, and we will schedule a meeting where we can meet with your team to look at IEPs and what services you currently offer in your district. If this is a conversation about updating your MOU to access resources at the support and service hub, we will make sure that the CDS staff are there to engage in that conversation. Just want to make sure that our SAUs in cohort 1 are starting to think about ESY, which I'm sure you are for everyone, but if you need support for this age group, please let us know. Any questions about ESY? Okay, so I am going to turn it over to Gail Page. We have some guest speakers here today. We have Gail Page from Midcoast CDS and Jennifer Austin, also from Midcoast CDS. And Jackie, I know you're kind of the silent partner today, but Jackie Hersom also is our collaborative partner from CDS. They are going to present on summer referrals and summer child find activities. And I am going to pull up the presentation and share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Okay, I will turn it over to you, Gail. And Jennifer.
I guess I should not be on mute. So, good afternoon. So Jennifer Austin is my special education program manager here at Midcoast Regional CDS. So we're going to provide you with a presentation today about summer child find. So the objectives are really taking a look at child find responsibilities, which are not foreign to anybody. The CDS current practice for handling referrals that come in during the summer. And then we'll go over some options for support with summer child find. So just, CDS receives, and SAUs, I'm sure now too, are receiving lots of referrals. We have many referral sources, including parents, doctors, DHHS, community case management, private schools and daycares, our public pre-K programs, Head Start programs, and our early intervention for Maine, which is our Part C CDS group. Just a note that sometimes we get referrals that are not really very specific. An example might be we might get a referral from, let's say, a Head Start program that says all developmental. So just a note that we tease that out when we have our initial referral meeting to get more specific, so that sort of guides us as to which direction we're going to go in. So I'm sure you're all aware of our child find responsibilities that are directly from user. Each SAU shall maintain and implement policies and procedures to ensure that all children residing in the jurisdiction between the ages of 3 and 20 and under 22 years of age are identified, located, and evaluated at public expense. All referrals to the IEP team must be acted upon in a timely manner. The IEP team shall review existing evaluation data and determine the need for additional evaluations. The IEP team may conduct its review without a meeting. If additional evaluations are needed, the IEU must send a consent to evaluate form within 15 days, and the SAU must send a consent to evaluate within 15 school days of the receipt of the referral. Again, I want to note that CDS operates on a 60-day timeline for referrals, which is different than our 5 to 22. So Jen will now speak to what our current practice is for summer referrals, child find.
So when we receive a referral at CDS, we reach out to parents within 3 days of receipt of the referral. We talk about the parents' concerns, get an overview of what the concerns might be, and we schedule a meeting and we send out the advance written notice. Then we hold the initial, what we call an initial referral meeting, at which we talk about a child's strengths, needs, and in all developmental areas, which leads us to help as a team determine what evaluations might be needed to be considered for eligibility for special education. Then we send out the meeting determinations and the written notice. And within 15 days, we're sending the parental consent to evaluate. And once we receive that, that starts our 60 calendar day timeline, in which we refer for the evaluations, and then we will meet within that 60 days to determine the child's eligible for special education. And just another overview of the timeline. We have 3 days to contact the parents, send parental consent within 15 days, and then the 60-day timeline starts with when we receive parental consent to evaluate, and then we hold the eligibility meeting within that 60 days. So I'm sure everybody's wondering how CDS can help. So some districts have the need and staff to have an early childhood special education coordinator, in which you would receive all the referrals from the referral source and follow the district process for referrals, keeping in mind that parental consent has to go out within 15 days and eligibility must be held within 60 calendar days. And the SAU holds those meetings, completes all that paperwork, and then just reaches out to the CDS support hub as needed. Another way it can be done is CDS will receive all the referrals and contact parents within the 3 days and hold the initial initial referral meeting, including a representative from the SAU. Again, we're talking about a child's strengths and needs in all developmental areas and determining what evaluations will be needed. And the SAU representative agrees, SAU representative agreement is required to determine what evaluations are needed. Then CDS would send the parental consent within 15 days, and then the 60-day timeline would start upon receipt of that signed consent. We would refer for evaluations and then schedule a meeting to review evaluations and determine eligibility, including an SAU representative in that meeting. Then the next way is really a more collaborative process. CDS would receive referrals for children outside of district programs, and we would follow the process that we are currently following, including contacting the families and holding the initial referral meeting. And then SAUs could receive referrals from within their district programs or the referrals forwarded from CDS for children within their district programs. And that SEU would follow their district process for referrals. I think the most important one is talking about those summertime referrals. So I think an important option would be CDS would receive all referrals from a specific date to a date, kind of keeping in mind any referrals that come in that eligibility would need to be determined within the summer months. So as an example, a referral comes in April 15th. So that timeline would mean that they would need, eligibility would need to be determined after June 15th. So that would be a case where some school districts would opt to have CDS handle those referrals. And again, CDS would handle the referrals and schedule any initial referral meetings, including an SAU representative, and complete all the paperwork involved, and meet within the 60-day timeline, calendar day timeline, including an SAU representative. And now Gail has some scenarios with just some kind of dates. Yeah.
Sure. So I thought it would be, important to sort of point out what types of referrals come in during the summertime. So I've given 3 different sort of scenarios. One is like this one, Johnny. He was 4 in March. He's referred by his pediatrician on May 2nd. Related to some speech concerns. The initial referral meeting takes place on May 12th, which again is during the school year. But based on the needs, referrals for speech and language evaluation and eligibility observation were needed to determine his eligibility for special education. So these referrals are made for a speech evaluation and the observation, keeping in mind that the initial eligibility meeting is scheduled for July 17th to meet the timeline. So given this scenario, there are lots of options that, either CDS could support the SAU in moving forward with this. But so that's one example of where something needs to happen during the summer months for this child. Another scenario, if you could move forward. Sally, again, a 4-year-old in June, is referred by her DHHS caseworker with the following concerns. She's nonverbal, she has behavioral concerns, and she's not in a program. And this referral came in July. So this particular scenario speaks to a couple of things. Again, the referral looks at a lot of different concerns for this child. And, so the initial referral meeting needs to kind of look at where do we go from here? And then again, looking at the 60-day timeline and making sure we are meeting to determine eligibility within that 60 days. And the next one, and Timmy was referred from the early intervention. His evaluations have been completed, but the initial eligibility meeting needs to be scheduled prior to July 7th. So this is one where the process started during the school year, but in order to meet the timeline, the meeting needs to be held during the summer months. So those 3 scenarios are sort of typical of what we might see for child find in the summertime. That's a quick overview, and hopefully we've kind of given you some options for support during, the summer months.
Any questions for Gail and or Jen? We have a quiet
can-
group today.
Can I just, I'll just say that, obviously this is something that CDS, we've always operated during, the summer months and so forth. So just to know that we are here to really support this process for our districts.
So to follow that, the next part on our agenda is talking about our rate sheet for our support and service hubs. So we have invited Dan Hemdall to share a little bit about what that might look like if a school district needed support for their summer child find and referral process or ESY or any other service, what that might look like moving forward.
Sandy, can I interrupt for 1 second? I
Sure.
just had a timeline question because I saw what was posted in the chat. The 60 calendar day timeline, that's for kids under 5, correct? Whether they're in CDS or placed in an SAU program. Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Can everybody see that? Do I need to blow it up a little bit?
Maybe just a little.
Just a little bit.
Good.
Is that better? Okay.
Mhm.
So this is an extension of kind of the presentation that you just saw regarding the different options that CDS can help support, all the child find responsibilities, since it is kind of rolling throughout the entire year. It's a little bit different than kind of what your normal referral process looks like, where if school's not in session, these aren't coming in. So we have this document that you're seeing is a work in progress. We're looking to expand on what we can offer for supports, but we wanted to at least kind of capture what we can do based off the options that were presented in the PowerPoint. And so I'm not going to go bullet by bullet, because then I would just be kind of repeating what you just heard in that presentation, but really looking at sort of the administrative work that has to be done in terms of scheduling, generating non-special ed paperwork, so beyond your written notices and your IEPs, like referrals out to providers, getting annual paperwork from families. All of that work we can help support. It's what we do right now for all of our referrals. So we would be able to offer that as well. And it doesn't necessarily have to be everything on this list, especially if you're choosing one of the options where your work with the support and service hub is more of a collaborative effort, where you are taking on some, you need CDS's support for others. Between both of us, we should be really hitting on all these bullet points here. And then we also are able to offer the 282 support. So the writing of the IEPs, the administration of the meetings, the writing of the written notices, and having that programmatic understanding of children within this age group, we are able to offer that support as well. Obviously, a lot of this is going to be contingent on what your needs are. I'm echoing kind of what Gail said, where we're here ready to support you in any way that we can. And I know that your needs are going to be specific to your region and your district and your capacity. That being said, we want to be able to help and support you in this work. And, beyond what you're seeing on the screen, we are, working through setting rates for our speech providers, our OT providers, that type of work that we do currently. As we shift towards 2028, those people will be available to provide support for the children in your districts. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm sure that somebody is typing right now. Can you please share this document with us? And so we will get it out to you as soon as it's finalized. We are continuing to work on really the secondary type stuff beyond child find, really looking at the cost of, what is a speech OT or a speech eval going to cost? What's the attendance at an IEP meeting going to cost? All of those things we are finalizing, and when that is finalized, that rate sheet will get passed along to everybody so that you can make some informed decisions of how you would like our support. And then we would go through the process of the MOU and the contract of what services we would provide, and then move forward from there. Any questions?
Thank you, Dan.
Sure.
Yeah, any questions?
Sandy,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be really charming right now and ask you what I'm presenting.
So Erin is up next, and she is presenting on our guidelines on the catchment area, the service. Yep.
Okay, thank you. So we have determined that we presented this, we have it in writing and we'll send it to you. So I'm going to give you the overview, which you won't remember. I don't have a visual, unfortunately. But what we have kind of determined as a DOE, and you know that we have not solidified anything in Muser yet, which we are currently writing a Section 619 section. But what we know is that in the case where someone is residing, oh, there you go, residing outside of your SAU boundary, you are not responsible if you have programs within your SAU that are reasonable and will support the family. You can give them the choice to attend the SAU in program, or they can elect to choose their own program outside your catchment area. We have not determined how you will oversee that yet. If they are, it's not exactly the equivalent of a parent choice placement, parentally placed. It's not really quite that equivalent. We are still kind of discussing how you would provide support if the parent opted not to attend in your SAU. So you're not responsible for early childhood special education when children attend a program out of a state, or they attend a program out of the SAU boundary and there is programming available in the SAU. And then for SAUs that don't have programming or space within their pre-K programs, nor any collaboration programs in your SAU community, the resident SAU would do the following. And there are multiple options here. You could do a superintendent's agreement with the SAU where the student is in a program. So I know that in Southern Maine, you are all talking about how you would potentially support children who are attending in your catchment area. So you can collaborate with superintendents. A superintendent's agreement would divert the money to the SAU where the superintendent's agreement is, where the child is attending. You can develop partnerships with child cares or preschool programs where the child attends. So you could say, yes, this program is outside my catchment area, but it's on the line of my catchment area. So it's not very challenging for me to send somebody there or to partner with them to provide a service, or to partner with CDS to provide the service if they're already there. You could provide telehealth in some cases. We do in CDS a lot of telehealth, and the reason we do it is because we don't have enough speech therapists in Maine. And so a lot of our speech therapy comes through telehealth. You could also, and I know Beth, you've done some of this. You can offer, unless I'm wrong, you can offer the child to participate in drop-in services in your SAU. So let's say the parent's really happy where the child is, but you say, hey, we got a group speech situation happening in our SAU every Wednesday morning at 9. Why don't you have that child drop in and attend that, and that will we'll consider that their special education service. Now, in that case, yeah, sorry. So that would be a choice. I was going to say that it could be prohibitive for some people to be able to do that, to have the room in their schedule but it could be an option that you could choose. And then if the IEP team agrees, the child can access services at the service provider location only, which is, going to a clinic for speech therapy, OT, et cetera, or any other solution that you can find. Again, your areas, you know that if the businesses around you started to develop relationships with the private programs in your area, you know how you can interface with them. Sometimes some of them will offer special education services, and so you may have an opportunity to contract with them. But that is the conversations and questions you should be asking if you don't have programming and a child is not attending in your area. Obviously, the Department of Support, the provision of services, if there are challenges or questions, will help you problem solve this as a thought partner. I know you meet frequently with Sandy and Jen. She can bring those back to the team. We can consider them. But really what we want you to understand is that you're not obliged to provide services outside of your catchment area if you're not able to, or if it's far away, and you're not obliged to transport children outside your catchment area. So again, if you have programming in your area, in your catchment area, you can offer that to them. And again, I think that there's been some negotiations around this, and I think there's been some creative problem solving because again, we know that LRE at this age level is not defined. So you're kind of figuring it out as you go along. And I know that a lot of you have had to do that. I've heard conversations where people are, doing different things to kind of get these needs met, how and when you can. And that may have been, I hope that was clear. We're going to give that to you so that you can read it over and then ask any clarifying questions you have. Does anybody have any questions right now? We are considering, yeah,
Katie.
Katie.
We have a student right now who is at an out-of-district placement. CDS has arranged for that for this year and has assumed the responsibility for that.
Yeah.
They're currently a 3-year-old, so I'm wondering what that's going to look like as we transition. They'll be 4. It's not that we could not provide the services. It was just a parent choice. So I'm concerned what would happen since it's not an obligation for us to continue those services. They're providing the transportation and paying the tuition for that child to attend out of district.
That's a great question, and that's a unique situation. I would say if you have a program to offer, that would be what you would like to offer, especially in preparation for the child attending your K programming, which is going to be beneficial if they're there. I wouldn't do it in the middle of the school year, but I think you would have a conversation with the parent, potentially do some work to get them to maybe go see the space and meet the teachers and just feel. Because parents, they feel, you remember the transition from CDS to K, and parents feel worried about that transition. They think it's a lot. So I think if you can, but yes, you have a program that you can offer in your SAU. So that would potentially be your offer.
Right. I think the limitation for them is that they work out of district, so they're going to have those other outside things that we can't control that they may not feel they can control as well. So those are limitations, which may be
Yeah.
why that arrangement was brought forward. We have the preschool programming and we have the ability to provide services for this child during the school day.
Yeah, I mean, you have a choice to make there. And if the choice is, it makes a lot of sense to keep them at this placement. We know that there's going to be, instead of, if you are working with CDS, if you have a child in a CDS preschool, that there will be a cost associated with that. But remember that your costs are paid 100%. So if that's still working for the family and it's going to be better for everyone if that happens, that's a choice you can make. OSEP, their guidance letter, by the way, I think OSEP is still intact today. I know there was some, but we've gotten word that OSEP is still intact at this point, but an ever-changing dynamic situation. But they will say that, to disrupt a placement that's going well isn't recommended. So if they're doing great, if it works for the family, if they're getting what it needs, if it works for you financially, meaning, it should likely work for you financially because we're paying, if there's any overage of the per pupil cost, we would be paying. But, it may make sense to you to keep them in that placement for all parties. And that's kind of different than how we work in K to 12 because we have a program that we're offering in K to 12 and it's a little looser, as we know, in 3 to 5. But those are decisions that you make with families and IEP teams. And maybe the family's like, I have a neighbor who can go pick the child up and I want them to start going to school there because they're good. You don't know, but those are factors that influence access to preschool. If a parent can't attend in your SAU because of their work schedule and their inability to get them to the SAU for a drop-in service, that's why I mentioned that could be something that can happen because a parent might be, able to do that, but that's kind of a luxury, right? To like go in the middle of the day and take your kid for a half an hour session with a group. So that's why we say there's lots of different options, but you're really kind of working as a team to kind of understand what the best option is for everyone, yourself included, the SAU included. Like, is it going to be better for everyone to just maintain that placement? So again, this is not written in user yet, but we're kind of thinking about a ISP type of situation for children you're not providing a service for, and they're electing to be somewhere where you can't send people, that's not reasonable for you to transport to, etc. That way you would still maintain oversight and check-in and having meetings with these folks, and might not, so it might be along those lines, something along those lines, but we're still navigating that. And I know that we're reaching out to you all to figure out kind of how you're handling those conversations and situations as an SAU, because you're all handling it a bit differently. And it's working for you. I mean, I hear that, the parents are really eager to work with you and that it's working. So I might be wrong about that, but that's what I'm hearing mostly. So we're still trying to navigate from you all how we have to write this down in policy now. So that's why there's options, and we want your feedback so that you can let us know, like, it's not feasible for us to do this, and it's important for us to know that. But pretty clear from our commissioner all the way down that we don't think that you need to go to exorbitant lengths to program for children who don't live in your catchment area. Meaning,
Karen?
if you can't, go ahead.
I am assuming that would not necessarily be the same for a child that was placed through the IEP process at a special purpose pre-K that was out of the catchment area. Or the only offering
You
to
know,
that level
that-
is outside of the
I think-
catchment area.
I think that's an individualized conversation. I happen to know of 2 children who go to one of our very well-run special purpose private schools who are in a general education setting without one-on-one support. And yet their IEPs indicate that they're going to this very heavy-duty special purpose program. So what I would do in your case, special ed director, coordinator of preschool programming, is I would go take a nice long look at the programming that that child is participating in. And it could be that because in special purpose preschools, they do have general education programming. It's different than school aged. So I would do an observation and see, yeah, that child is appropriate for this program, or no, that child needs a very structured out of unit placement. Those conversations are challenging to have. You know, you all know that it's hard to get children back from out of unit placements after they go to out of unit placements because parents feel very connected then to that type of programming. But those are all factors that you're thinking about when you want to have those decisions. So I wouldn't, just say, hey, that child's attending, I'm throwing something out there, Margaret Murphy. And so I know that they can't make it in my school. I would definitely go and observe the child because it may not be the case that that child needs a level of programming that you would imagine they were requiring. Does that make sense, or did I confuse everybody?
Nope. Sounds like it's an IEP team decision about the level of programming, and if you cannot provide that in district, then that might be a scenario that a district might have to think about.
Yes, and remember that sometimes special purpose programming is offered to families because it's a program offering, because CDS doesn't run programming. And so again, I think that because it's very different from how we navigate that in the K-12 world, and because special purpose preschools are differently oriented, they have a lot of different types of programming. It's just, you would want to go and make sure that you kind of understand what the programmatic needs are of that child.
So Beth has a question or comment. Community private contracted providers have been valuable resources to accommodating students who are parentally placed outside of catchment.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Sandy?
Yep. Beth just mentioned community private contracted providers have been a valuable resource to accommodating students who are parentally placed outside of catchment.
It's not a question. Sorry.
I said it's a comment.
It's me. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit not feeling well, so I'm sorry. I know I'm like kind of disorganized right now. I apologize.
Any questions for Erin regarding the catchment area in serving early childhood special education? Once again, this is a work in progress. We wanted to put this out. You have feedback, please feel free to send it to Jen or myself, and we will bring it back to the team. We are continuing to build this plane as we fly it, as we have used so many times, but it is so true. And we thank you for helping us figure this out as we do that. So that is all that we have on the agenda today. Unless you have any other questions, we hope you have a great evening. Thank you.